All right, Ariel, we're back. Pints with Ayre today, June 2nd, 2023. Got ourselves a nice frosty IPA that we're drinking from our good close friends again with Avery.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this on the way in today, is that, you know, it's their 30th anniversary this year too, so we should probably do 30 episodes with Avery this year, because they have more
That would be easy. They have enough
than
beers to do that with.
yeah. And then we're going to start getting into some of the real interesting ones, like their barrel aged special edition bottled ones. And
Yeah, a lot of barrel aged ones, a lot of sours, a lot of they've got some really strong ones. Yeah, they got a barley wine.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
18% or something. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, see, again, after being in Munich all week, I almost forgot what it's like to have 7.1% beer everywhere you look around here. It's just, that's kind of almost the going average in Colorado, it seems.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the Clear Horizons is what we have going here. Nice. Crispy IPA. Colorado inspired, they say.
Yeah, and like I've mentioned before, you know, I'm not a big IPA guy. But again, this one, that's really light, and that's awesome. That I was not expecting to like this one.
Yeah, not like I said, it's not before we started rolling here. It's not as dank as
no, not at all. That's nice.
So yeah, if you want an IPA that's not super in your face hoppy, this is pretty relaxed, I would say, on that.
Yeah, it's only 50 IBU, which is certainly not like some like the 100+ I've seen. So
yeah, found an IPA for Ariel.
That's another one. Yeah. Yeah. No, we might have to start exploring some more, because and my tastes are changing as well. So you never know.
Yeah, well, I've recently had to open up the lagers a bit more for you too. So I'm fine. I'm branching out. I'm finding some new ones.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Avery is just we'll hit
on their tap list there. If you go back that screenshot that on the tap list I'm not sure why we haven't had an Ellie's Brown yet. That one's a classic and it's just so good. I love that one, and I would and personally their chai brown I like a lot as well. But
got me a little Ellie's Brown sticker.
Yeah, Ellie's Brown is one of their original brews. I think that might have been their first. I forget, but it is one of their first few brews they've ever done, and they've always had it. And that one's amazing.
That'll be a good what's the 30th anniversary? Is their tricentennial, I guess.
Not centennial, but no.
Yeah, that'll be a nice brew to celebrate the 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
And then that yesterday was a lot of fun. Got to hang out with one of our dealers from Rochester, Bob Leitz, from Analog Shop, visited us, and then our friend Ari, of course. Oh, yeah, we're just spoiled that we get Ari all the time whenever we need him or want to hang out with Ari. He's there. But yeah, we went to the Bohemian Beer Garden in Boulder. That was so much fun. This place is just like a little slice of Munich in our backyard.
Yeah, a little slice of Bavaria.
Yeah.
Munich, Czech. Yeah, they've got some great Czech beers and Bavarian style beers, food, and they've been in Boulder for 10-ish years now. I don't know exactly, but they've been quite a while now. And we used to go there occasionally for lunch with some of the Ayre employees. It's been a while, but love it.
Now they actually serve liters of beer too, which is
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then have a in their back room they have a stage, and they have concerts there, or stand up sometimes. They have a performance area in back, which is awesome.
They do indeed. It's a lot of fun. It's a really cool spot. Bohemian Beer Garden. So man, we're just giving our viewers all kinds of cool stuff from our local spots here that they need to come and experience.
Indeed.
Come and take a tour, hit up the beer garden and Avery for a tour. All right. Well, let's talk what we're here to talk about, I guess. High pass amps, and why we do it and why we're starting to talk about it a bit more, I guess. I've had a lot of people kind of reaching out this last week since I made another kind of post on Facebook, since we're sending some out to Optimal Enchantment in California, and it's stirred up a lot of questions, and I thought this would just be kind of a fun way to kind of cover a lot of that.
Yeah. So as a little background, we are good friends at Vandersteen, who we partnered with a lot. Some of their powered bass model speakers, they require an external 100 hertz 6 dB slope crossover, and so traditionally, they offer, or you can do your own external little filter box that goes in front of the amp. But I think Richard probably convinced Charlie at one point to look at trying to include an option within our power amps, and we started doing that with the AX5 VX5, and it's and so we have some alternate stuffing options on the input board for AX5 and VX5, so that it's very easily implemented. It's implemented at the right spot in the circuit, and we can use a really high quality capacitor that we actually measure and sort and match for each unit, so that they're really, really well matched for each phase. Because we're balanced, we have to have essentially 4 different filters, so they all match really closely. So we've internally always called it the Vandersteen option, because that's what it was intended for. But it's I'm not very familiar with other possibilities, but I know that there are other systems that could benefit. But our standard option is for that 100 hertz cutoff point that the Vandersteens want.
Yeah, and I had reached out to Richard to kind of get some of my blanks filled in about how it's all kind of coming together, and I guess this is a little blurry, but it's just really quite interesting, because at the amplifier side, you have your 100 hertz filter at 6 dB first order slope, and that signal, once that filtered signal hits the quattros, kind of the reverse of that crossover point is what is applied at the internal amplification on the quattros or the quintos, and that's essentially going to make up for that filter slope and give you a flat frequency response overall, in essence, with minimal phase issues at all. And it's just really quite clever, because there is a number of other ways that it can be implemented. I mean, with Richard's setup, and I do like that we call it the Vandersteen option, because you got to give credit where it's due, right? But with that being a 6 dB slope, you can play around with that with a variety of other subwoofer setups out there. There are between SVS, JL Audio, REL, there's enough kind of manipulation of the crossover point and the filter slope that you can kind of make that work, in essence, very similarly to the Vandersteen approach, just all internal on their speakers, but with kind of a variety of setups. So like I'm doing a system like this with one of our viewers on he's got some Magnepans and some small Eggleston Works speakers and a set of SVS subs, and essentially what we'll do is go out of his KX 520, which has dual XLR outs. I love that, and that's super handy for something like this. But we'll go one set out to a VX520 that is high pass amp modded for this purpose at the 100 hertz, and then the other full range set will go to the SVS subs, but he can set the crossover point on the SVS subs, that roll off at 100 hertz at 6 dB, and essentially get the same kind of flattened kind of frequency response between those Eggleston works and the SVS subs, and gain all the benefits of rolling all that bass out of the mains power amp. So that's just like, yeah, I mean, one of many possible examples, you know. I mean, there's a lot of ways it can be implemented.
Yeah, so you know, we've like I said, we started with AX5 and VX5, and that has carried through and even improved in its implementation in the X8 series. And so the EX8 and VX8 have that option built into the circuit board. And I would call it the ideal Richard approved capacitor coupling method. And I won't. It's all pretty simple, and it just makes sure that the capacitors are always biased. It's basically a capacitor biasing trick, and it works great. And Richard approves.
Yeah, I do. I do know that he approves of our method, but yeah, you filled in some of the blanks there for me too. But yeah, it sounds like there are some other companies that might offer that, but it with like maybe a bit of a twist or a slightly different approach, and just it's not quite how Richard would approve of it, but but it still kind of gets the job done.
Yeah, and so you know, our implementation is basically a hardwired option, and so it's not something that's software defeatable or anything like that. We haven't got and because there's some good reasons for doing that. And so you know, if you order an amp that way or have it set up that way, it's that way permanently until it's sent back and removed, which is rarely happens. You know, it's to have it be a selectable option in the field requires quite a few more parts and some compromises in performance to be able to do that switching element. You know, hardwired and soldered in is always going to be the best performance. So adding any kind of switching element is going to have some compromises. So all of our options are basically hardwired in.
And right at the input stage.
Yeah.
Too, right at the input stage.
Yeah. So one of the benefits of this, one of the benefits that comes into play with our almost ultra high input impedance, and so you know, all of our modern products have 1 meg input impedance. Like the VX8 and the AX5, VX5, they're 1 meg per phase input impedance, and so we're talking about a cutoff frequency that allows us to have a much more reasonable sized capacitor, because you know, we're trying to hit that 100 hertz frequency. That's essentially the inverse product of the impedance and the capacitance, and so we have a really high resistance. We don't need as high of a capacitance to hit that 100 hertz cutoff, and so we can get a very good quality capacitor in a very reasonable size because it's a small value. Just a nice bonus.
Yeah, and much easier to filter out what you need through these capacitors before it hits the amplification stage. So like the crossovers in a speaker, more efficient this way. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so here's like another example of how if they were showing a 6 dB slope here, it would be at 0 there, but yeah, it's just kind of a nice way to visualize kind of like how that is all happening there. Yeah, another thing that I mean, yeah, there's so many other benefits to this with like most speakers, like Bookshelf, for instance, like Gunny speakers, Sonor audio speakers, like this is his flagship speaker, and its lowest frequency point I think is like 43, 44 hertz. And for like a two-way Bookshelf type of system, you often have a subwoofer already. Like a lot of small Bookshelf type of systems will already have a subwoofer in place, and by doing the high pass amp mod for something like this kind of speaker, like a smaller Bookshelf, and taking advantage of that crossover, that's probably adjustable within the subwoofer section itself. I mean, that it really could open up, you know, a lot of headroom for people's listening, and you've got you minimize time distortion too. So I mean, so coupling with our zero feedback kind of effect, where you've got just a true to the original timing of the source signal flow to the speaker, if you minimize the excursion and the distance that that driver is physically trying to reproduce, you minimize time issues as well. So I mean, there's just there's a lot of benefits to be had through this. And actually, that got to throw a plug to some friends of ours. We might have a guest on at some point, but historically, I've recommended these guys. I mean, this is one of the only, like, I would say, audiophile worthy analog external crossover that I've come across. I mean, there's still a lot of switching elements involved on it, you know, because it's trying to be flexible for many applications. But, you know, I've been kind of preaching this concept to people for years, and you know, this is the best of the most kind of compromised way, I guess I could say, of about going about it compared to our setup with just the passive kind of input stage approach. This is an active crossover, and there's just a lot more going on to it. But to try to get the same effect, you know, this was kind of a complicated way of going about doing it. And so the other way is just a lot more elegant and much better for the signal overall.
Yeah, and much shorter signal path, a lot fewer connections, switching elements, you know.
And so another thing that I thought was kind of interesting, since we're kind of helping out our one of our viewers on the VX5, is that setup is a little easier for us to do because of it being the little input board, it seems. So that could be something where, you know, if somebody wanted to get this mod done to their VX5 or even AX5, you could go to like your dealer or something, or just and more than likely have the dealer send in the input board. You don't even have to ship the whole unit back to us. But yeah, that input board is kind of separate from the main audio circuit, so it just makes it is a little more accessible and enticing for people to consider there.
Yeah, and so, you know, we've had a couple questions over the years whether or not we can do this to some of our early amps. And in general, I'll say no. You know, they were not designed around that, and so it would we didn't provide a location for it at that point in the circuit. It's the only one I say is almost an option would be the AX7. The AX7 does have a natural spot
Cool.
For this capacitor, because we already have a capacitor in that place. That's one product we've made that is actually has a capacitor coupled input. Its current cutoff point is about 1 hertz or half a hertz or something instead of 100 hertz, but so we can easily change that value to be 100 hertz. I don't, we may have done, I forget right now if we've done one, we may have done one that way, but maybe not. Anyway, that is the one product, the one older product that would be easy to retrofit.
Yeah.
Most of our other products would be very difficult, and I can't really recommend it.
The AX7 is
really offer.
I think there's quite a few out there in the wild, maybe that that people might have been looking at some Vandersteens or something, and that might just kind of tip them over on that or something. Because I mean, yeah, that's
yeah. I know we've had probably several requests for the MXR to do that with, and unfortunately with the space constraints within that design, that's almost the hardest one for us to do. And so there is not a good place to install some high quality capacitors there.
not yet.
I'll say, we may or may not be working on 30 upgrade for the MXRs, and so I am keeping that in the back of my mind.
Yeah,
see
maybe
if we can offer that option in the future for that product.
Yeah, let's try it on prototype V2 here soon.
Yeah.
Oh man, just dropping Easter eggs and hints and all sorts of things. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's cool that Richard, with his high pass amps, he's an advocate on the zero feedback thing, and I kind of mentioned that like just previously to that. I guess the zero feedback and the combination of getting rid of a lot of that low end, not just current draw, because it's like the most power hungry frequency band that you're filtering out, but limiting that driver excursion, I think, is another big key element there. Like just the physical movement required to reproduce low frequency notes effectively is quite a lot. I mean, like these JL audio subs, I think, will do 2 inches out and back, which is just crazy to me. That is, I mean, if you've got a driver that's like trying its hardest to go as low as it possibly can. I mean, a lot of the frequency response charts is like, that's like the lowest frequency it'll hit before it's just almost meaningless, and so for it to try its hardest to get down that low, it's just really impacting everything else that it could be doing a lot better. So yeah, this is probably what I'll end up doing for my like main kind of walk into the house living room kind of system, is some kind of VX8 high pass option, maybe some nice small bookshelf speakers or something of that sort. Get a cool sub going. Anything else that's kind of critical importance we should update people on? I mean, one thing that I think is really important to note is that it is so simple in this method that it is really cost effective to do, and as of right now, we're only charging like $50 for the parts technically to do it, I think. So maybe that'll have to change. I don't know. But right now, that's, there's labor involved, but I mean, overall, it's a pretty cost-effective thing to do retroactively, at least. And then if you order a new amp like a VX8, EX8, VX5, AX5, and it's ordered with this option from the get-go, we'll just do it. We'll just include it in there. So part of the Ayre secret menu that we're working on right now. But yeah, that and that just opens up a lot of possibilities, because like a VX8 high pass amp version will be 6,800, and a pair of M5 HPAs is, I think, about 20 or 19, something like that. They're nice amps, but it's, it just gives people options to kind of get into this philosophy of amplification. you know, a lot easier. So yeah, 6,800 for VX8 HPA, and it'll drive quattros perfectly. That would be an awesome setup. That's kind of what we're shooting. We've got almost going on behind us. So yeah, do it up. Do the high pass amp mod. We believe in it. It's cool. But yeah, if you got any questions, you can give a call too, and just we can talk bass and high pass amp stuff and how it'll work for your system. Send us an email. We'll work it out. We'll get it figured out how to work best for you.
Right. As not an unrelated, what I found very interesting. This has happened many times in the past, but when we were out to lunch with our friend Bob Leeds yesterday, and out of the blue, he mentioned some of his old Ayre memories, and one of our one of our original sales guys, Bruce Van Allen, and some stories of him coming out and demoing gear. And guess who showed up at our doorstep out of the blue today? Our old friend Bruce Van Allen.
Bruce Van Allen.
It was it's a bit eerie when that stuff happens, but
it happens all the time. That's why you got to think good things.
Yeah. So cheers to Bruce. He's still kicking. He's doing well.
Yeah.
He's very well retired from the audio industry, but he misses it. There's some great stories. We almost should have hooked him in right then and sat down for a pint in a video this afternoon when he showed up.
I know. Well, he has to pick up what he dropped off at K1. Right. So
yeah,
we will maybe be able to do that. He might be able to be our first in the Ayre alumni series. Yeah, that would be great. We'll get Bruce on. Well, yeah, think good thoughts is the moral of the story. And project good things. Well, thanks for tuning in and listening to us chat about high pass amplification. I'm almost done here. Give us a shout if you have any questions on it or want to talk further. Give a chat in the Facebook posts that we do or YouTube. We'll try to get to it all. And yeah, you guys have an awesome weekend. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.